Brothers and sisters in the covenant, we bring this question. YHWH, give us the latest Bible prophecy news on the Iran Persia or Elam war or other conditions for this day. The lead verse is Jeremiah chapter 23 verse 38. But since you say the burden of YHWH, this is what YHWH declares. This establishes not every claim to prophetic insight is the true burden. YHWH declares through the verses that follow what we need to hear. A people forsook the house of YHWH and his tower, inviting slaughter until they betrayed his place as seen in Enoch chapter 89 verse 55. Yet the divine response is the summons of all the host of the heavens, the cherubic seraphin and aphanin, angels of power, the elect one and other powers on earth and over water from Enoch chapter 61 verse 11. The heavenly court is mobilized. The condition of the land is examined as in Leviticus chapter 13 verses 13 and 14 where it is all turned white so he is clean, but when living flesh appears he is unclean. Discernment between appearance and true state is required. The Son of Man voices the tension of the appointed hour in John chapter 12 verse 27. Father, save me from this hour, but for this cause came I to this hour. Warnings follow of false consecration, silver restored yet devoted to a covenant-defiling idol and cast metal image in Judges chapter 17 verse 3. Hardship appears with lives brought in for bread because of the sword of the wilderness in Lamentations chapter 5 verse 9. Yet covenant kinship is affirmed. Are you not of my bone and of my flesh in 2 Samuel chapter 19 verse 13. The mighty and kings who possess the earth will implore respite from his angels of punishment to worship before YHWH of spirits and confess sins in Enoch chapter 63 verse 1. Earthly powers face humbling. Authorization is granted for the covenant people to gather and stand for their life to destroy all who assault them in Esther chapter 8 verse 11. The deliverer who dried the sea is present in Isaiah chapter 51 verse 10. The cry rises, help me O YHWH Elohim, O save me according to your goodness in Psalms chapter 109 verse 26. Though hand join in hand the covenant wicked will not be unpunished but the seed of the faithful will be delivered in Proverbs chapter 11 verse 21. Provision persists, blessed will be your basket and kneading bowl in Deuteronomy chapter 28 verse 5. Being sold to an oppressor appears in Judges chapter 4 verse 2. Yet the command sounds to observe the Passover to YHWH Elohim as written in the scroll of this covenant pledge in 2 Kings chapter 23 verse 21. Renewal through the written covenant is the response. Priestly standing is declared, they will eat the grain offering, sin offering, trespass offering, and every first fruit in Israel will be theirs in Ezekiel chapter 44 verse 29. Preparation for defense is explicit as Uzziah prepared shields, spears, and bows in 2 Chronicles chapter 26 verse 14. Covenant trust in YHWH Elohim is distinguished from compromised worship places and removed altars in 2 Kings chapter 18 verse 22. Rejoicing with passion lifted to Adonai appears in Psalms chapter 86 verse 4. The third day is established in Genesis chapter 1 verse 13. Precious are the thoughts of Elohim toward the inquirer in Psalms chapter 139 verse 17. Later threads continue the witness. The fig tree signals summer is near in Mark chapter 13 verse 28. Waste cities will be filled and they will know I am YHWH in Ezekiel chapter 36 verse 38. Lawlessness is operative in 2 Thessalonians chapter 2 verse 7. Clothe yourself in the new man in covenant faithfulness and true holiness in Ephesians chapter 4 verse 24. Weapons of indignation come from a far country in Isaiah chapter 13 verse 5. Israel is mustered for war in Numbers chapter 1 verses 1 to 3. The basest of kingdoms will be diminished in Ezekiel chapter 29 verse 15. A strange Elohim in strongholds will divide the land for gain in Daniel chapter 11 verse 39. Dreams trouble the mind in Daniel chapter 2 verse 1 and 4 verse 5. The priestly tabernacle will not be cast away in Leviticus chapter 26 verse 11. YHWH will do a thing in Israel at which ears will tingle in 1 Samuel chapter 3 verse 11. The rock Urim Thummim of Israel spoke, he that reigns must be covenant faithful in 2 Samuel chapter 23 verse 3. The great Elohim who guards covenant is entreated not to let trouble seem little in Nehemiah chapter 9 verse 32. Those inquiring by Urim Thummim will find resting places in Isaiah chapter 65 verse 10. The covenant wicked who return to YHWH will find abundant pardon in Isaiah chapter 55 verse 7. If we suffer we will reign with him in 2 Timothy chapter 2 verse 12. The end of faith brings preservation and joy unspeakable in 1 Peter chapter 1 verses 8 and 9. The Father gives the spirit of wisdom and revelation in Ephesians chapter 1 verse 17. In these days reports speak of renewed strikes on coastal defenses, missile sites, command centers, and port facilities in ancient Elam and Persia. Iranian responses target neighboring lands, pressure on the vital seaway, and threats of closures. These align with scriptural patterns of weapons of indignation from a far country, proud kingdoms facing pressure, testing of passage for commerce, and overwhelming forces gathered in opposition. Yet the overriding word is covenantal clarity. The guided draw carries a lean yes verdict, probability of yes at 95.5%, no at 4.2%, unresolved at 0.3%. It is classified as strong anomaly, all gates pass. The triple convergence of identity, inheritance, and priesthood registers at 969.5%, non-randomness index 6.23 sigma discovery level. The polarity balance index leans yes. The guidance detection indicator shows extreme anomaly. The convergence confidence index is threshold crossed at 88% with all 6 channels active. These markers confirm the textual threads, including self-referential validation of Urim-Thummim inquiry and patterns of conflict, humbling of proud powers and deliverance for the covenant seed, are not random. The Father speaks to the full architecture of covenantal standing. The call remains to observe the Passover as written in the covenant pledge, to clothe in the new man of true holiness, to prepare to stand for life and trust the deliverer who made a way for the ransomed. The seed of the faithful will be delivered. The covenant wicked will not be unpunished. Provision persists. The basest of kingdoms will be diminished. The strange Elohim and hidden lawlessness will not have the final word. The fig tree signals summer is near. The third day stands. Waste cities will be filled and they will know I am YHWH. Those inquiring by Urim-Thummim will find resting places. Abundant pardon awaits the returning. If we suffer, we will reign with him. The end of faith brings preservation of lives and joy unspeakable. The spirit of wisdom and revelation is given. For the question, YHWH give us the latest Bible prophecy news on the Iran Persia Elam war or other conditions for this day. The scriptures declare these are days of the burden YHWH pronounces. The patterns of conflict and testing align with what is reported, yet the overriding word is affirmative guidance. Stand in the covenant posture required. Renew through the covenant pledge. Prepare in faithfulness. Trust the deliverer. The seed is delivered. The Father declares the true burden for those who stand in identity, inheritance, and priesthood. The verses drawn in this Shield 17.12 session were Jeremiah chapter 23, verse 38. Enoch chapter 89, verse 55. Enoch chapter 61, verse 11. Leviticus chapter 13, verse 13 to 14. John chapter 12, verse 27. Judges chapter 17, verse 3. This concludes today's interpretation under the Shield